Hey guys, so I just wanted to talk to you about the campus engagement that I did for this mini project slash assessment. And so I decided to go onto the KDUX website and listen to the podcast about challenging the narrative racism. So in the podcast, pretty much just a summary of what the students talked about was their difference in opinions in racism in the world today. And so they talk about how the views that people have had in the past are the ones that are still present in the world today. And about racism is still not really on the rise, it's still happening the same amount as it always had in the past. And one issue that they had and that they talked about was as humans and as people, we cannot continue to generalize white people as the bad guys because it is not always the case. And we can compare this to what white people are doing as generalizing blacks as the bad guys, which is just as bad as what is happening now. And they brought up the topic that hate crimes are not necessarily rising, but they're being just reported more now as they have been in the past. And racism implies a sense of superiority, and prejudice is the actions that people experience day to day. And so they talk about the difference between racism and prejudice. How racism is just what's in your mind, and prejudice is you acting upon those thoughts that are in your mind. One thing that I can connect this to what we talked about in class in the psychology course is perceptual influences and how people have different perceptions of people of different races. And these perceptions can come from past experiences in their own lives or the lives of people around them. And people have perceptual sets about other races, and these come from people learning about history and how others have treated different races. These perceptions can come from their emotional influence as well. If racism has affected themselves or someone close to them, they can be emotionally affected by racism and develop racist thoughts and act upon those thoughts. In Laws of Organization and Perceptual Forms by Max Wertheimer, 1923, the author brings up that perception can be formed from past experiences and habits as well. So one thing that we can have a civic action and reflection. So pretty much what I did was after listening to this podcast, I decided to talk about it with some of my friends in my classes and inform them of what the kids on the podcast said about racism in the world today and how it still exists and still is a huge issue. And we even had a discussion about what their opinion was on racism and even what my opinions were on racism. And so that's how I decided to reflect on this engagement. And so, from civic context and structures, so one thing that we could begin to do in our classes is just have open discussions about racism and how it can affect some of our lives and some of our everyday lives, and what we can do to begin to stop racism, even with the simple act of just treating everyone around us, especially our classmates at Richland, just with respect no matter what race they are.